If you are trying to buy a camera in 2026, there's a good possibility that you're being pushed toward way more than you really need. More megapixels, more autofocus points, bigger sensors, faster lenses, more accessories. So in this video, I want to do something different. I want to show you the best camera gear for about 90% of people, not in the professional safari photography field, not the guys arguing in the comment section down below. Actual people who want to take good photos and videos without overthinking it. This isn't going to be a top 10 list. I want to filter everything down and make it very simple to understand. When I say 90% of people, I am referring to beginners, hobbyists, content creators, travelers, parents, street photographers, even those who are doing casual paid work. If photography is something that you do, this video is for you. If you are shooting the Olympics or wild tigers in Africa or Hollywood productions, then this isn't the 90% of people I'm referring to, so let's begin. The biggest mistake that people make with gear is starting with what's best instead of starting with what matters. The truth is, most modern cameras are already very good, regardless of the brand. What separates a frustrating setup from a great one is not specs, it's most often the size, the weight, the simplicity, and how often that you use it. Because really, a great camera setup that you don't pick up is nothing more than a monument sitting on your shelf that reminds you every single day of its unused potential. The camera body. For most people, the camera body matters less than you think. What you need from a good camera body is really a few things: reliable autofocus, decent dynamic range, which is good colors, and comfortable ergonomics, and really a size that you're happy to carry around with you. What doesn't matter is extreme megapixel counts, stacked sensors, flagship video specs, rolling shutter performance, open gate, everything that all of the internet argues about when a new camera comes out. That stuff, it doesn't matter for 90% of people. There's constant talk about sensor sizes on the internet, and what I see in general is people defend what they have, because if they spent $3,000 on a full frame camera, it hurts to admit someone else is getting better photos with their $700 APS-C camera. The fact is, people are taking brilliant photos even with micro four thirds sensors, and dare I even say 1-inch sensors. The other problem that I see all the time is people with expensive gear often blaming the camera for mistakes that come from missed settings or weak composition. Then they convince themselves that a bigger sensor would fix it, but it won't. It's a skill issue, and learning skills doesn't require emptying out your wallet, unless you are gambling money to protect your ego. These days, APS-C cameras are phenomenal. Full-frame cameras are great, but not necessary for great photos. The reality is, if you're buying a modern APS-C or an entry-level full-frame camera made by any recognizable manufacturer these days, you aren't going to be held back by the body. What will hold you back, however, is complexity. The lens. If there is one place where things matter most, it is the lens. But I will say, probably not in the way that the internet tells you to. For 90% of people out there, the best lens is one that is sharp, versatile, reasonably fast. That refers to aperture speed, not massive, and you enjoy using it. A single good prime lens or a high quality zoom will do more for your photography than any camera body upgrade. And I'll emphasize the size here. If you get a lens that makes your camera smaller and lighter, you often get better photos because you bring it with you more often. This is why I really like compact primes, pancake lenses, or small zooms. Most of the time they aren't perfect, but they are very practical. If you are looking for those near perfect lenses, they are out there, but often they come at a higher price. This is where it's okay to spend the money though, and there are a few reasons for this. Mainly, as I mentioned, this is where you will see the highest return on your investment. And second, the resale value on lenses is usually very strong. Even 5 to 10 to 15 years later, you could pick up, for example, a $400 lens today, and in 5 years after using it, it's not uncommon to be able to sell that for, let's say, $300 at a $100 loss to someone else. If you want my lens recommendations for Sony APS-C specifically, I made a dedicated video just for that, depending on what you shoot, or you can always check out the description of this video for some of the ones that I always recommend time and time again. Now, this part may upset people, particularly the gearheads out there, but it has to be said. Most photographers don't need 5 lenses. In fact, They don't need 4 lenses. They don't need 3 lenses. They don't need overlapping focal lengths. They don't need a camera bag that weighs more than a toddler on your back. I know that there are people who are obsessed with being prepared for anything out there, so they pack everything from a 10mm ultra wide all the way to a 600mm prime, but those are also usually the backpacks that are most often left at home, and for good reason. What you will need is one lens that you love and an optional upgrade lens for later on. That's really it. And I will say, if you limit yourself early on and you master one focal length in the beginning, your photography improves pretty massively, much faster than running around and constantly switching camera bodies and lenses and camera gear. Audio and accessories. Now let's talk about audio and fun gadgets. 90% of people do not need cinema quality microphones, huge cages, or 10 pounds worth of extra accessories and stuff. What you do need is one reliable microphone if you are shooting video. You want to carry around at least one extra battery, a decent memory card, a variable ND filter for the front of your lens, and maybe a tripod. Now, if you shoot Sony, I'll link some of my recommendations that I use down below, but if you are on Nikon or Canon or Fuji, you may need to click on alternatives that fit for your setup. The point of these accessories is they support what you are doing. They aren't distracting or hindering you. And trust me, you can make things 100 times more complicated than they need to be. I've worked for a production company where we've spent 4 to 5 hours setting up C-stands just to get a shot that I could easily replicate with a minimalist kit in, let's say, less than 5 minutes. And the last thing that I'll say is that the accessories do not have to be expensive and they can be used. So this is my tripod, one of 2 that I have. And this one I use most often. I spent not 400, not 40, just 4 for this tripod. Picked it up used. It's been great. Obviously it's not as fancy as the ones that have the trigger and they extend automatically, but I don't need all of that. I don't need to spend $1,000 on a tripod when, for my light, small cameras, this $4 one works perfectly. Don't buy just to buy. It's very common that people fall into the trap of buying pro gear to grow into it. And what usually happens is they get overwhelmed and they don't use their gear, or if they do use it, they get lackluster results that would have been bested by much cheaper and easier to use alternatives. I see this with lenses all the time. I have an APS-C camera, but should I just get the full frame lens and use it on my APS-C camera because I might upgrade in the future anyway? And the answer is always no, at least for me. Get the lens that is designed for your specific sensor, whether that is full frame APS-C, micro four thirds, whatever it is. And this isn't me gatekeeping. I'm not trying to keep you out of a system or steer you into another system. There is a very practical reason that APS-C lenses work best on APS-C camera bodies, and also a financial reason to buy the lens that you need now. And if you master all of the existing camera gear that you have and you find a genuine, serious, and significant reason to upgrade to a larger sensor, different camera body, then you can upgrade everything all at once. Another trap is chasing excess sharpness that you'll never notice. Here's a practical example. If you are buying a camera to take photos for Instagram, you don't need the sharpest lens in existence. I would say that 90% of lenses are great enough for social media, and you will not notice an increased return if you spend more money. The difference between a G Master lens and a good budget alternative is often 5 to 15% improved sharpness, but the price is 2 to 3 times higher. I'm a firm believer that you should buy gear for the scenario that you shoot, not for every scenario. And if your camera setup ever starts to feel intimidating, heavy, stressful, it's time to reevaluate things. Here's a good filter to use. Instead of asking, is this the best blank piece of gear? Ask, will this make me want to shoot more? Or even better, ask, will this solve a significant problem that I regularly experience with my other gear? Over the last few years, there has been a huge increase in strange yet simple cameras that have limitations but are enjoyable to use, and the popularity of some of these models is off the charts. And it makes sense because a camera that you enjoy using is going to be with you, and a good camera that you have with you beats any perfect or superb camera that stays in your closet or on a shelf back at home. Now, as you guys may have noticed, this video is more about how to think about buying gear rather than here, just buy this. And this is important because you can get an amazing setup with Nikon just as easily as you can with Canon or Sony or Fuji or even Olympus. And really, when you step back and when you look at things as a whole, you can't go wrong with any of these options. I've been using Fuji a lot recently, and it's a lot closer to Sony than I ever anticipated or would have guessed. Now sure, each brand will have their standout thing that makes them what they are, but if you similarly equip them, each setup is really going to give you very similar to, I would say, near identical results. The key to remember is that you don't need to keep up with everything. The purpose of a camera company is to generate income, and they spend millions, I don't know, hundreds of thousands at least on advertising, on development to create incrementally better cameras to try to get you to buy at every stinking opportunity. But you don't need to. You don't need the latest flagship. My most used camera body, and this is honestly the truth, is from 2019. And it's still a camera that I'm learning on, I'm growing my skills on. I don't need to spend a fortune on gear, and you don't need to spend a fortune on your gear. In most cases, you'll end up worse off than if you just thought logically and bought gear that fit your life and your photography goals. I will link some of my general gear recommendations below by use case, but more importantly, I hope that this video helps you stop overthinking and start shooting. If this video was helpful, let me know down in the comment section below, and leave your favorite setup down there as well, because other people are probably curious. I'm curious. I just wonder what you guys are using on a daily basis out there, and it helps people. So let's continue the conversation down below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.